CEO Julian at the age of 38 is in a dire state. He finds himself inside a tomb, his body covered in blood and surrounded by a horde of animals ready to maul him for dinner. But he can't help but think how Geiger did this to him. And how is it not how he is ready to die with the monstrous beast that is ready to attack him? Zuihyun is determined not to die the death of a dog. He hopes that the monster is vegetarian, but he knows that's a long shot from 15 years ago to 2025 before Julian gets to its current state. Tombs began to appear around the world, causing earthquakes wherever they appeared. Relics were found inside these tombs and they communicated indomitable power. To be a powerful debater is a relic for him who wants to start an MLM. It is also a relic for him. People have dedicated their whole life to achieve these relics. He persevered to the end of his agony. He found the Arcus relic, a relic that provided vast knowledge about tombs and other important information about the remains. He hit the jackpot with this find and was convinced that he would finally make the nonsense of a life go away. She led him and hoped that he could start anew as a powerful relic user. Unfortunately, Zuihyun started his journey a little late. The people who hoarded the relics, they banded together to form a new society with laws limiting the use of the relics and began to monopolize them. Finally, only one option was left. Those power-hungry jerks licked the shoes. Hard work pays money. Balls. Later, a corporation called TKBM took TKBM to work for them, keeping in mind their exceptional quarrying skills from the very beginning. Scouted. The corporate CEO Won Jun told Julian that his role as Won Jun would be challenging: a smuggler, a thief, a spy, but most importantly a tomb raider. Became an expert at sneaking into restricted areas to steal people's remains. Kwon, CEO of the Tomb Raiders, becomes even richer, having also confiscated all the relics stolen by Julian and his team, making him the strongest relic user in the world. The harsh words Juhyun heard from others chose to focus on his job as a tomb raider. Being a tomb raider, the only thing he could do to survive in a world that had been changed by the relics. CEO Kwon had assigned Zuhyun on a deadly mission as a trap. Feeling threatened in an attempt to complete the task by Juhyun's excellent skills, Juhyun finds himself injured, his entire team wiped out and his leg cut off. Juhyun and in desperation grabs a stone and throws it at the serpent, but it was useless. Zuhyun starts cursing CEO Kwon, saying that he should scare her if he becomes a ghost. Suddenly someone intervenes and stops the serpent from eating Zuhyun. A crow appears and says that he will kill Zuhyun. "We'll give another chance," the crow tells him. "Let's see if you can really claim the king's throne." This time Juhyun wakes up sitting in a chair inside a police station and is shocked to see that his legs are back. Julian finds himself 15 years ago and decides to collect the relics earlier than the others. With the help of his past knowledge, he is interrupted by a confrontation with the mother of a high school student. Juhyun demands money for the fight and barely makes him realize that he has no money, no equipment. The relic of Arceus is not in Julian's possession and has no means of earning money. But he easily withholds the trauma and wonders if his 15 years of experience allowed him to do this. The sun charges at Julian, but she is easily subdued. Julian realizes that her body probably feels lighter because she has not yet experienced the after effects of the residue. The police intervene and Julian accepts. Juhi is shocked and thinks she made a mistake and sees some floating texts in front of her showing her name, history and first skill. He assumes it's the crows doing it and gets angry. He sees a discovery window to become the Tomb Raider and all four must wake up. Juhyun learns that he is the only one who can see the windows, and seeing a small insect on the floor proves he still has more skills to acquire and may wonder what the crow's plan is because the remains don't volunteer to help people. Detective Kim Ji-woo unexpectedly. Juhyun interrupts TS train thinking of posting bail for him outside the police station. Jianwoo informs Zuihyun that the high school student involved in the incident is a habitual offender and promises to take care of the matter. Zuihyun feels relieved and Xianwoo is relieved. Grateful who had taken her in as an orphan and treated her like family in the past. However, when Zuihyun asks Jianwoo about paranormal activities for people with supernatural powers, the detective calls him weird and tells his wife, noting the ability to easily find secret stashes. Ju-hyun concludes that there are no relic users yet and believes the time is right for him to use his skills to obtain the relic as he heads home. Ju-hyun encounters a group of men he had worked for in the past in order to make quick money. Recalls how he was abused and forced to work for them until his mid-20s. Ju-hyun demanded his delayed salary and severance pay, which thugs Ju-hyun but Hyundai finds the charges amusing and proves to be a skilled fighter and easily defeats the thugs despite his victory. Ju-hyun is worried that he is not strong enough and wants to get the relic soon. Meanwhile, Kyung-tae confronts Ju-hyun about his ungrateful behavior and threatens to harm him if he does not change his ways. Ju-hyun notices that the knife in Kyung-tae's hand is actually a relic despite the danger. Ju-hyun decides to take the knife and use its power to see inside humans. Kyante's subordinates attack Ju-hyun, but he vanishes before they can harm him. The Buddha statue he lost to Ju-hyun. Ju-hyun tries to sell the statue but finds it until he discovers a suspicious essence inside it, so he cuts the statue open and finds an illegal substance, which leads him to suspect that Kintae's group may be involved in an illegal drug trade. Because the siblings have many artifacts, there is a high possibility that some of them may be hiding illegal drugs. Ju-hyun quickly comes up with a plan and context. Zeon-woo intends to report Kyantae for dealing in illegal substances and claims 100 million. Rewarding this as his opportunity to change his fortune, Kunju vehemently denies that the delay in the shipment is due to unpreparedness and instead suggests that they remain calm as they suspect they are being watched, although they are being watched by their boss, the president. She is suddenly interrupted and reprimanded by Kungju for her actions. However, apologizes for the incident after being reprimanded by her boss. She denies any wrongdoing and protests the allegation that he tried to extort the money for himself. If they recover the Buddha, but one of them warns that they have been discovered and is now confused by the sudden change in tone, Kyung-ju asks what is going on. A report by the police officers led by Jian-woo obtained evidence that indicated Kyung-ju and his group were involved in both drug trafficking and distribution, with the accused claiming they only worked with artwork and were law-abiding citizens. The accused found it amusing that the criminals always seemed to use the same defense when caught, and claimed that evidence had been gathered against them. Kyung-ju's group also mentioned to the police officers that they knew the accused had more illegal substances stored in their warehouses, at first shocked to learn that the police also knew about Jeongi-do's warehouses, but that calmed down as she knew there were passcodes installed on all of them. Kyung-ju insisted she knew nothing about them. Kyung-ju expressed her confusion to Jian-woo, saying that they did not understand the topic of the conversation. He warns Jian-woo against making false accusations on innocent people and reminds him that being a police officer does not give him the right to interfere in someone else's business. All 600 artifacts found inside are checked and drugs are found inside all of them as Kyung-ju is being arrested and handcuffed by the police. They express surprise and disbelief that their storage rooms were opened. They insist that it is impossible because all the storage rooms have different passcodes. However, the police inform Kyung-ju that they have ways to access the storage rooms. And find out they have someone who is cooperating with them. Inside, the police officer addresses Ju-hyun as a student and informs him that there is a storage room that has yet to be opened. The officer expresses his surprise at Julia Dazen's ability to open all other passcodes and asks how he was able to do it. Ju-hyun explains that he has a good memory, which is extraordinary and one of his few talents. Ju-hyun says that it was the special skill that Park Kyung-ju had. Ju-hyun recalls working in a warehouse where he initially had a hard time as each storage room had a different passcode. Sue initially didn't find it suspicious but found it annoying, so Julian decided to memorize all the passcodes, never realizing that this skill would come in handy later. Julian sees that the situation is progressing according to plan and he eagerly anticipates receiving his reward money, which will provide him with the funds needed to collect the remains while police officers search for additional drugs and relief in the meantime. Meanwhile, the police officers present expressed their gratitude for Julian's assistance and commented on the criminal's Juhi's fearlessness and then approached her with a request during a chaotic situation where two police officers, Officer Sien Kungju was being restrained by Wu receives a call informing him that Zuihian wants to speak with him, and Wu is surprised to receive a call from Zuihian, whom he refers to as his little assistant by holding the phone next to his left ear. Jianwu relays Julian's message to Kyungju, saying that he should have treated her better. Excited by what Kyungju hears, while repeatedly saying goodbye to Kyungju and wishing him a happy stay in prison, to prevent such problems from happening again, he summons Juhyun and swears continuously. Hui threatens to harm her. She accuses him of repaying her kindness with treachery and calls him a bastard who just happened to be walking the streets at night, and says he was fresh. Seconds later he gets a message from Jian Wu on his phone. Zhou will soon receive nearly 100 million won as a reward for serving justice and advises her not to spend it carelessly. Zhuyan mentions that Jian Wu always seems to be overly concerned about her. Although Shiwu is reassured that he no longer worries as he has obtained the initial funding needed to begin the search for Xueli's tomb and is genuinely determined to get the relic before CEO Quan Tijin, however his momentum halts abruptly. When they saw that their apartment was no longer standing in its place, a giant mausoleum built by a relic, the whole neighborhood was in turmoil as all the houses had disappeared. The authorities struggled to calm the anxious residents. The situation had sent everyone into a frenzy. Seo Juhyun left the crowd thinking that it is only natural for everyone to panic due to the enormous powers contained in both the relics and the tombs. Julie Yen remembers receiving a call from her roommate during this time in her past life, telling her that her apartment had disappeared and asking what she was going to do, though Julian was unsure of what to do at the time. Was unaware of the situation because he was busy working for Park Kyungju. When he returned home after finishing his work, everything was back to normal. If so, it implies that someone was able to successfully defeat the tomb in the past. And whoever was responsible for this must still be around. Juhyun is determined to defeat this person and guarantees to take the relic for himself. Suddenly Juki hears a familiar voice, "Please don't shoot me," and sees upon discovering that it is his roommate Kim Dong-hyun. The soldier becomes agitated and orders Kim Dong-hyun to shut up and not ask questions, but Juhyun intervenes and after congratulating his roommate Juhyun, gives the soldier a shock. He exits, demanding to know why the military is involved in an issue that is usually handled by the police, and suspecting that something is amiss, he asks the constable if they are planning to raid the tomb. Juhyun realizes that the government may be his rival and feels he needs to know more. Juhyun wonders if the country will be able to find out about the existence of the remains on this. Knew about, at which point he informed the soldier that he was a resident and had a right to know why the entire army was armed, and Juhyun, present, warned the soldier that he was making a mistake and informed the authorities for pulling a gun on a civilian. Can be done. When asked the reason for their presence, the soldier replied that they were trying to blow up the tomb and the excavation. Examined its contents, but secured the area well and brought in foreign experts to assist. Juhyun realized that foreign experts were involved and thanked the soldier for the information that he had given to the soldier's well-wished and asked him to leave the soldier and take care of him. If he finished talking with the soldier and asked what the soldier said, Juhyun replied to him, "Don't do anything and just stay there." Then he leaves Dong-hyun behind. Dong-hyun, he was thinking that Juhyun's "What's wrong with today?" An American CIA agent named Linda Walker interrogated Linda's colleague, curious as to why she kept asking the same question, to which Linda replied that the number of troops present seemed odd. In response to Linda's aide suggested that the soldiers might be doing their best to help her and advised her to avoid asking such questions in public, as Linda might have English-speaking individuals then follow up on the mission's progress. Updating the aide confirmed that the explosives were about to be detonated and everything was going smoothly so far. His aide reminded Linda to focus, explore the tombs completely by the end, and if possible, if so, retrieve the relic. Abe Kiyoshi, a member of the Japanese excavation team Kiyoshi, commented that it was more appropriate for him to attend than for Linda because he had come to Korea from a neighboring country while Linda had come from a faraway place in the US. He said that Linda's team, the Thieves, appeared fully committed to completing their mission. Linda said that their primary goal was to retrieve the remains and deliver them to the International Police Federation because their mission is to keep the peace and use these items safely. Kyoshi argued that it was possible that on the basis of this statement one could make a request for the relic if they pledged to handle it safely, yet everyone knew that such a request would not be granted. Linda replies that there are doubts about the credibility of his words and questions why she should trust Kyoshi. Kyoshi remarks that it doesn't matter since they are both doing the same thing right now and finds it pointless to discuss. Linda is impressed by Kyoshi's confidence, unaware Juhyun was secretly listening to their conversation from a nearby back alley. Relics and tombs were initially considered mere omens to appear around the world, but some countries eventually began to understand their true significance. The first countries to recognize this were the US and Japan, who began classified research on these relics. And even smuggled from some other countries. Zuhyun looked at the two tomb diggers and thought to himself that he would not allow them to take his remains. He wondered why they were inactive and then realized that they must be waiting for the tomb to explode, and at first dazed. And said these people were just amateurs. Time was running out and he couldn't waste any more. He identifies them as Tumbleleaf and ponders their intriguing nature. He observes that these objects often reveal themselves in a grand manner as if they were heroes from a mythical realm who are determined to capture the interest of the world. A group of people gathered in front of the dome, but only Juhyun had the knowledge to use it. If one could decipher the glyph, it would reveal the location of the tomb entrance as well as Juhy, and would provide details about the trap inside. Meltdown and touched the ground to decode the tumbler, which he recognized by himself could be considered a trap as most people were unable to understand it correctly even though he was able to do so. She said she discovered that a game like a pop-up window unexpectedly appeared in front of Juhyun, telling her that Juhyun had unlocked an extraordinary title and learned a new skill, the linguistic skill rank. Juhyun is now able to understand and virtually preserve any language. He can also hear the sounds of the relics and is able to communicate with them. Juhyun has greater control over deciphering runic glyphs. Julian looked at the skills window and said nonchalantly now he has two Tomb Raiders basic skills, spy rank F and language NKF code. Julian thinks the skill is good but the window is blocking his vision and says he can't see as he keeps waving his hand in the air. A passerby is wondering what he is doing. Juhyun thinks he just needs to unlock two more abilities. Now reaching the Zuihyun River. Discovering the entrance to the tomb and looking at the glowing red rune rocks on the outpost under the bridge, with a grin, he declares that he will cut through the glyphs with his relic knife. Julian is about to start slicing through. A pop-up window appeared warning Julian on his way of an intense aura. Suddenly a blinding light in the sky from the rune glyph was creating a hole in the ground. Amazing, the scene left everyone in shock, including the two foreign excavators, who asked their crew what had happened. The crew informed them that the tomb's entrance had opened. Stay put with a sense of urgency and told them that there might be a second explosion. Kyoshi asked the soldiers to make sure that civilian Dawn didn't get too close. He ran to the entrance where a bright light flashed and Linda followed him. Kyoshi teased and said that he was a liar, but Kyoshi replied seriously that if those people interfered with his work it would only get complicated as they would approach the entrance. Kyoshi complains that it is too bright and that he cannot see the depths. Can't look down to investigate. Linda throws a small stone into the hole and Kyoshi concludes that it looks like there is water at the bottom. They exchange glances and Linda remarks that it looks too deep for Kyoshi to jump in. But Linda is startled and says wait, Julian is walking into the grave as if it were her own since the two diggers arrive, and expresses her dismay that those idiots are actually following her when Julian discovered a fugitive trap and smiles and concocts a plan to use it against the two excavators. Juhyun activates the track just as Kyoshi descends into the water. Kyoshi is hurt and coughs only to realize that he was landed in sewage water by Linda, who landed safely using a rope. Due to Kyoshi's stupidity, he suddenly heard a strange sound coming towards him. Within seconds he was overwhelmed by a powerful current. Despite his efforts to escape, he was swept away by the current and left coughing, and Julian was unsure of what to do during the search of the tomb. The location of the relic was eventually discovered, but upon arriving he saw that there was only a small pond inside the cave. Julian dipped his only relic knife into the relic water. Suddenly there was a reaction on the surface of the water and a large snake emerged from the pond asking if anyone had dropped their object. Snake then presented a riddle to Zuihyun, asking which of the two knives which one is gold and one silver, and he was puzzled by the question that the relic he asked for was called the spindle of gold and silver is based on the famous folk tale of Mercury and Woodcutter by Aesop. This story is also well known in other countries, so the foreigner can easily pass this test, but it is too late. This relic is already Julian's. He replied confidently that neither the knife was his. The snake was impressed and he closed his mouth Dia only to open it again, revealing the knife that Julian had thrown away. Julian grabs the knife and slits the giant snake's mouth, causing it to scream in pain, and it backs away a bit when the snake asks him what was he doing as he was about to complete his test. Juhi smiled and told the relic that he never trusted the relic. He said that even if he passes the test, there is no guarantee that the relic will reward him with some general Juhian, that the relic is always the same. He also added that there is no guarantee that the reward the relic will give him will not turn him into a psychopathic killer. Snake was surprised that an ordinary human. How did it come to be known that Nyat was the real owner of the gold and silver axes, who eventually turned into a mass murderer and serial killer in the US, causing countless lives to be lost due to this relic? Will give a relic that is imbued with a curse. Which was ironic since the purpose of the test was about honesty. In the first place, Jueyin jumped on the snake's back and stabbed it, causing it to scream in pain, look on in anger and blame the relic for its deeds. Said to be a victim, Snake asked Julian if he really believed that by doing so he could earn the right to use the relic. Before we get into the thick of things, let me explain the characteristics of the relic and let us explain the 3 talents that one must have after successfully navigating through a tomb full of zombies. Testing the relic and overcoming adversity rewards the relic, granting the user various abilities. Afterwards the user will bond into a mutual relationship that is considered the normal relationship that a human and a relic should share. However, relics have always had a deep hatred for humans by design, and their aim is to harm them after spending some time with them. Humans with the relic would eventually suffer from a disease, as this relic users had too much power and authority in possession of the healing relic. This is another reason why Zuhian was exploited by CEO Quan. To use the relic requires some degree of giftedness, and if you lack it you will be easily influenced by them. Scholars have classified talents into 3 main groups: sociability, dominance, and adaptability. Sociability, ability to form healthy relationships with a residual, refers to authority, whereas dominance is the power to demand obedience from a relic. Charismatic compatibility has a strong connection between the user and the relic, as if they were a match made in heaven. For example, a musician and an instrumental relic often have a strong compatibility. Most people focus on increasing their sociability talent, as it is the easiest of the 3 to use and still allows the full benefits of relics. Although using sociability is a joy, when relics become friendly to their owners they emit a toxic aura that can make the owner sick. A so-called reciprocal relationship with those relic. The snake screamed in pain and Julian looked fierce and asked how long the relic could stand it by asserting authority over the relic Julian and guaranteeing that he could force the snake to struggle. Because Julian used it to assert his dominance over her, Knife Snake pleads with Zuhian to stop, but he just smiles and says that it hurts not. Zuhian threatens to break him if the relic is not handed over to him. It hurt because he thought humans would want it, so as soon as the snake was about to be tamed he emitted a bright golden light and transformed Julian into a golden axe to declare the endeavor successful. Then his face a notification appeared, saying that Juhian unlocked a title that experienced tombs and gained a new skill, Tomb Digger rank F. Juhian was happy to learn that he learned another skill and was thinking that what should he do to unlock the next one. Another notification pops up saying Juhian unlocked another title. Juhian quickly hid himself. The 2 excavators finally made their way to the pond with Kiyoshi. Made up and excitedly declares that it is exactly as the prophecy foretold. Juhian did not expect the 2 excavators to arrive quickly, as Kiyoshi anxiously threw away his bottle in anticipation of the reaction. Linda meanwhile remained unaware of the situation. Juhi smiled and silently thought that the idiots were too late, but Juhi decided to observe them. Little Juhian tightened her grip on her knife, wondering if she should eliminate them as they would hinder her in the future. But he received an unexpected message from the crow, telling him that his knife was already half used in reply, and laughed to himself and wondered if this was Crow's way of telling him to think wisely. Kiyoshi was confused as to why there was no response, as the prophecy clearly stated that leaving a relic in this pond would do the trick. Linda reacts to his mention of a prophecy and realizes that there is prophecy in Japan. A user with a relic. Although Kiyoshi quickly changed the subject, that the current issue was that someone may have already taken the relic, he stressed that this was a significant problem as it meant that there were more people who could take the relic. Agreed, and looked around to find scars and footprints indicating that. Hearing a voice, Kiyoshi pointed it out as Juhi and smiled to himself, thinking that these people are very easy, but Zuihyun begins to question whether they will be able to escape a collapsing tomb and turns to the golden axe, asking him to close the tomb as the relic begins to emit a golden glow that causes the entire tomb to shake. This causes panic for the two diggers. Kiyoshi startles Juhi and calmly makes her way past the two diggers, screaming in terror. Linda doesn't know where to get out. Kiyoshi tells her to go back. Where did they come from? Finally, Juhyun pushed the manhole cover and got out of it. That's it for today. If you want to follow Julian's next journey, and you want me to continue the comment part 2,